Portage County Economic Response Team's Economic Recovery Briefing, recorded Monday, April 13, 2020.
So it is 3:05, and we promised we would keep this to an hour, so we'll get started. My name is Todd Kukan. I'm with the Portage County Business Council, and welcome everybody. Thank you for taking time out of your day to join us today. This Portage County Economic Recovery Team was created several weeks ago, and if you can see the slide, it shows the basically the 9 partners that are involved. Portage County Business Council, Portage County Government, City of Stevens Point, Plover, Create Portage County, the SBDC, the Convention and Visitors Bureau, CAP Services, and Plover Area Business Association. Obviously, economic recovery is going to include a lot more folks than that, but this was the nucleus of the group that's getting together on a regular basis and talking about some of the challenges. We also have added recently Sue Wilcox from United Way, Bobby Damrow from Midstate, so we have a fairly good representation of the community. What we're going to do is go through several folks in the community, predominantly those whose logos are shown, and just talk a little bit about where things are in terms of economic recovery. Again, you can see now here in the next slide the website, Portage Econ, E-C-O-N, recovery.org. And on that website, we've put together a lot of different resources that are available in the community to help you primarily in your business, but there's some other information there as well. So we hope you'll take advantage of that resource. I will tell you that this is not scripted, either technology-wise or comment-wise. So we'll do our best with the production. I want to thank Ryan Kronosky. Ryan's the Director of Community Development at Stevens Point, and he's done a lot of work right now in front of the camera and behind the camera as well, not only for this event, but getting the group together. So I want to thank Ryan for that work. So first of all, we'll start out with, we've got some opening remarks. First of all, from Mayor Mike. How are you doing today, Mike?
So far, so good. You can see I've got the Avengers Tower behind me. So we're working on that. No, I'm kidding. Thank you all for being here. It looks like we've got about 90 participants already. That's pretty significant. I know that everybody was pretty nervous. There were a lot of things moving very quickly, and I'm glad to see that this group, along with a lot of other people who have worked on this, have kind of got things where we have at least a sense of some of the things that are going on. I know that there was a lot of confusion and questions when these programs started coming out, but I'm glad this team came together and kind of put it all in some sort of readable format. I want to pay a special thanks to Todd over at the Business Council and his team there. Ryan on our team here at the City of Stevens Point has been an invaluable resource. And a special thank you to Council President Melissa Johnson for working very closely to kick this thing off sort of with the rest of the group. And I know there's a lot of people that I'm going to be missing. I want to thank all of you for handling this portion of this event. As you know, there's many facets, from housing and supplies, personal protection equipment. Every little thing has a whole team of people working on it to making sure that we have all of the needs of the community met. I understand that we will probably not be able to hit every one, but with everyone's help, I think we can get a vast majority of these things squared away. And with any luck, in another couple of weeks, we're going to be past the hump on this thing and have some semblance of normalcy back in our lives. So again, thank you all for coming, and thank the team who has been working on this for the past couple of weeks to have this presentation for you. Thank you.
Mike, anything that would be helpful for residents to know, at least in the city, in terms of services? I know that you've had to do some things regarding the parks and drawn some lines there. Anything specifically, a couple things maybe, a couple bullets?
Sure, I can certainly talk about some of the things that are going on. We have reduced our services to what we feel are just kind of the essentials per the governor's order, which is going through at this point, April 24th. We have closed the yard waste drop-off. Yard waste is of course, not essential. We've kept the parks open. However, the facilities within the parks, the things that people commonly touch, playground equipment, disc golf, skateboard park, those things are closed to the public. We are set to open the bathrooms May 1st, which is our normal time. I know there's a lot of people out using the bathrooms, maybe not today, but last week when we had decent weather. So we want to get those bathrooms open, and we're going to modify our cleaning schedule. We're going to have someone in there at least once a day cleaning the bathrooms so you can still get out and enjoy some fresh air. Maintain that social distance. We have been working with the Portage County Health Department in regards to determining what is and is not an essential business. And I think that has pretty much been leveled off. We are working on, let's see, most of the events have been canceled through May. I know that even Special Olympics is canceled in June. So that is a huge, huge hit to our tourism industry, not just hotels and motels, but restaurants and things like that. I'm glad that this economic recovery team is together trying to figure out how we're going to make all this stuff up. The small injections or loans that we're seeing are helpful. However, those loans still have to be paid back. So I know there's a lot of people very nervous about that. City staff, many are working from home if they can. We still have things like utilities, trash, all of those things are being worked on and picked up. The fire department is still at full staffing, obviously, police department at full staffing. But we have closed off almost all of those offices to the public. There are still ways, if you have to pay your property taxes, there's a mail slot here at City Hall that you can drop them in, the nighttime drop box. You can mail them in, or you can even pay them online. Most applications for permits and bartenders' licenses, things like that, those can be obtained and paid for online. Plus, everyone's available by phone. So if you need any city staff as a resource, we are still available and the city is still functioning. We just are generally closed off to the public. Special thanks to our city clerk, Carlin Krautkramer, who is almost done with a very hectic, confusing, and stressful election. As you know, the results won't be available until later today. She's been busting her hump, her and her staff, trying to make sure that the federal government says we can and cannot do. Working with poll workers to make sure they're safe, and the people voting to make sure that they have the information and the accessibility to vote to the best of their abilities. So I am looking forward to the election results tonight as well, because we had a couple of challenged aldermanic races, and because it's longer than usual, I have to try and get something to the clerk's office tomorrow regarding our reorganization, should there be any new alders in. I think we have at least one new alder. Thomas Leek will be taking over in District 8 for Alderperson Dugan, who had decided not to run. Todd, is there anything else you think I'm missing?
No, not right now. And if there are, maybe it'll come up through some questions, or as we go through, we may think of some things. Thanks a lot, Mayor. I
Fair
appreciate
enough.
that. And you've thanked a number of people, and there are so many people that have helped in our community, the healthcare workers, and you mentioned the fire and police and all those. So we thank so many people that are on the front line helping everybody. Let's go to Plover Village Administrator Dan Mahoney. Dan, were you able to join us?
I am here. Had some problems getting online, but I'm with you by phone, and then not by video, but that's probably a good thing for anybody anyways. So I echo what Mayor Wiesa said. I think there's a lot of people to thank so far with respect to the efforts, and appreciate that he went through that list. I would just add to that I think that other folks to thank is people have been doing a really good job of doing the social distancing at home. I think that we're already seeing that it's having a very positive effect here in Portage County. So it's great to see most folks really paying attention and trying to stay safer at home, which is great. I also would love to commend the employers that have been able to have many of their employees work from home. Obviously, a lot of people have been able to do that, and we're able to marshal those resources fairly quickly, and certainly that's been helpful as well. And doesn't take much to look at our city, village streets to see there's not a ton of traffic out there. So clearly it's definitely been working very, very well. Todd, if you want me to chat a little bit about kind of what's going on in the village, I can do that real quickly. And that is, unfortunately for us, because we have smaller staff, we don't really have the ability to kind of separate folks out and take or rotate them in and out. We really have to keep everybody that we have here. So that's been a little bit of a challenge. But with that in mind, basically sewer, water, public works, police and fire, they all have separate management, emergency operations and plans, and they're all in place. In fact, we just went through an update of them at the end of last week. So we really are set and good. I guess what we're comfortable with is that, especially sewer, water, public works, we're really able to keep those people working and separated, frankly, from themselves as well as the public. So for us, that process is working well right now, and we actually feel that we probably have a better capability of keeping them safe than if we had them off for a week and, you know, we can't keep track of them. So if they're here at work and we know we have them separated, we feel really good that we're keeping them in pretty good shape. In addition to that, Mayor Mike talked about the election a little bit. I would tell you that we were short on election workers, so I actually helped out for a while. Actually, I was a hall monitor letting people in and out, so that was kind of interesting. But it also gave me the chance to see numerous residents that came in, including several business folks. So it gave me the opportunity to ask them, were they still in work? How was that going? And so the essential services people were doing fine at that point. So that was definitely good to know. I think that the sectors, you know, again, Mayor Mike kind of talked about it a little bit, but clearly the service industries, the food industry, the retail industry, and the service workers, that's where the biggest pain is being felt at this point in time. So hopefully with how things appear to be going right now in Portage County, and we aren't seeing basically an explosion of cases, I think we have one more week to work our way through to see the results of the election. But if we can get through next week and not really see too much, then I think that you're going to start to see Portage County start to go on a downslide with the number of cases. So that's clearly good news. Other than that, appreciate the work that the Portage County Economic Recovery Team has been doing. Clearly moving forward, there's, you know, a big need is going to be helping businesses out, whether it's, you know, short-term needs and funding sources and getting them hooked up with those, additional legislation that may be coming forward from a federal level, or especially longer term. I think that, you know, those of us who work for our communities really understand that that will be our major focus. Once we can kind of get through the issue of Corona-19 itself and move on, that is going to certainly be for a long period of time our focus.
Dan, thanks so much, and I want to thank you and Mike again, your leadership, of course, all the staff that are involved, and as well as all the other towns and villages in Portage County. A lot of people help make this happen. So thanks for that, all that you are doing as well. So now let's turn to Gary Garski. Gary's with Portage County Health, one of our health officers. I've heard Gary on a number of calls throughout the course of the week. I know they are crazy busy. So Gary, thanks to you and your staff and your team. And what sort of updates can you give us from the Portage County Health Department?
Sure. Hello, everybody. I'm here with Ray Shabilsky, Director of HHS. Well, we had a calm and bright weekend. We've been working operations. I think this is day 26 for our ICS operations. And as public health, we've been involved with this. I think it's like day 41 that we've been involved. So I actually had a day off on Sunday for the first time in like 40 days, which I very much appreciated and very much needed. But now Monday, we're back to work after having a calmer Sunday or the holiday. As of Saturday, and again, it'll be also true of today, we currently have 4 confirmed cases still in Portage County. 3 of our 4 cases have been are recovered, meaning that they've been released from isolation and that they're no longer symptomatic to the point of being considered spreading the virus itself. And we have 1 person still in isolation. As of Saturday, when our last situation report was written, and we'll have one coming out again tonight, we have tested to date 222 people, and we have, of those, 20 did not meet testing criteria. So As of less than a week ago, we are still testing people based on tiers of 1, 2, 3, and 4. That switched last week Thursday, and now we're looking at who can be tested through the state lab of hygiene and who can be tested through commercial labs. Again, those tested that determination is made by local medical providers. And based upon, again, symptomology of people presenting with symptoms and kind of, people who are considered to be vulnerable population like the elderly or having underlying medical conditions still have priority, as well as healthcare workers and some of our responders as well. State of Wisconsin is still seeing an increase in cases. We're also seeing an increase in death. Yes, I know there's been discussion around, are we flattening the curve? And I would say, again, since we're not seeing an exponential growth of cases throughout Wisconsin and in Portage County, I would agree to what Dan had said earlier about that, our observance of the Safer at Home Emergency Order number 12 appears to be working. I will tell you, with that said, we're still getting complaints on a daily basis about people either doing unnecessary travel and or having unessential businesses open to the public. I know we had a bout with some of our CBD oil folks this weekend that we're reopened again on Saturday, and now they're closed again as of today, which is Monday. So that still seems to be an ongoing battle. Last week we were getting lots of complaints around folks who were working with essential businesses who really felt that that they should be home with their family. So that's kind of the other range of these as far as complaints. So first it was complaints about non-essential businesses being open, and now we're getting complaints from the workers of essential businesses and wondering, why are we still open? So please keep that in mind. I'm glad to see when I'm walking out in the community, and I do so with my mask, because we're all supposed to be wearing a cloth face covering at this point, based on CDC and DHS recommendations. I'm glad to see that there's some additional measures being put in place from both our fast food industry, and that they're using plexiglass to drive-through windows. I've seen the same thing occurring at gas stations where they put up temporary plexiglass at their service counters, and I've seen the same thing occurring in some of our local grocery stores. So it's nice to see that business owners taking some extra precaution to provide that kind of the extra safety step for their staff who still have to work during these difficult times. I know on our call today with DHS and also on the governor's call, there's been lots of discussion around the different modeling and studies about, has Wisconsin reached its peak? One model out of Washington State says that Wisconsin should have hit its peak on April 8th. DHS and their models is estimating that our peak should come around April 23rd, sometime between the 23rd and the 23rd of May. And with that said, the testing we're seeing now coming out is from tests that were conducted 2 weeks ago. And so, again, we're not seeing exponential growth of tests, which is great, but we're still seeing increases in both the number of positive cases as well as the number of deaths. And again, the deaths are occurring on a daily basis, but the positive tests, those results typically are coming back from as far back as 2 weeks ago for tests that ran then or tested. So we really won't know probably until we get closer to April 24th, is this truly all still working? I know in our call today, DHS is currently having conversations with the governor, and the governor's staff is kind of looking at really what are the next steps. And I know they talked about that they're reaching out to different councils of manufacturing. Schools as well are wondering, what's happening from a state level as to, will schools be able to reconvene, after April 24th. So really, we've been told today that hopefully by week's end, or possibly into early next week, they'll have some more recommendations as to, will Safer at Home truly expire on next Friday, April 24th at 8 a.m., or will it be extended? So, and really they encouraged all of us to kind of, hang tight, be patient, keep practicing what we're practicing as far as social distancing and social isolation. And really, once we get the go-ahead to begin that process of returning back to some form of normalcy, to do so very carefully and with understanding that we still might see cases increase, and that, you know, really the next steps of you know, how do we all get back to having a state of normalcy should probably be done in some form of step or methodology, so we don't just kind of all go running out at the same time, for example. Are there any questions on anything?
Gary, I just got, well, we may have some more at the end from the ones Ryan has received, but just a quick question in regards to PPE, the personal protection, I can't think of what the E stands for, equipment. How is our community handling that? Is there a shortage? Are we able to keep up with that, or what's the general sense?
So there are some shortages. In fact, we had our weekly call today with long-term care and CBRFs with EMS, and then I was also on our call today with our hospitals and our EM emergency management folks in EMS are on looking at our medical search. So again, from that perspective, we're all kind of still gearing up to have, you know, we haven't really hit our peak yet. So I would say our hospital partners truly are still kind of gearing up for the next step of, you know, this expected surge of capacity. With that, are okay with PPE, but once that medical surge comes, and there's doubts that we would have enough to get us through the medical surge. What I heard in the call today, people are very, very, very grateful for what Portage County has done as far as, you know, being able to do 3D printing of the face shields. And I heard, I think Ascension is getting some of the 3D printed type masks as well. So people have been really appreciative of those. There's been lots of communication, different groups, including United Way, Portage County United Way, and their efforts to use a surgical mask for either patients coming into their facilities, as well as I know, I'm talking to Joe Gemza, for example, I know that they have a policy, which is not uncommon, to have, you know, using your current PPE, such as an N95, up to 5 times if it's not soiled, just to get more extended use out of those for what we have. We've had now, in fact, we just had one late last week. We are getting some very limited PPE through our SNS, which is our Shoes National Stockpile. The first go around was basically to our 3 healthcare systems and their workers. The round was related to, I think, EMS. So I saw like Amherst Fire District was on there, Plover was on there, Stevens Point Fire District was on there, as well as some of the long-term care facilities, and I think Ascension was on there as well. Getting some very needed N95 materials, as well as face shields, and I think gowns. I know Ascension is also short on gowns as well. There's been sharing among the partners, and in part to United Way. So I know like WSP was able to give out some of their PPE around gloves and N95s and surgical masks for things that they were using on campus and no longer had a need for. Now the campus is shut down for the remainder of the spring semester. So I'm very, very appreciative of all the sharing that's going on in the community regarding PPE. But long and short, there's still a need to have more.
Well, Gary,
I'm sorry for the long-winded answer.
Thank you. I know you guys have been working overtime as your staffs as well, and for everybody working on the health in our community, appreciate it very much. I would add too that I believe the CDC, the Centers for Disease Control, has a link on their website in terms of making your own mask. So if you're interested in that, to make sure you have one that will be helpful, that's a good spot to go. Amber Johnson and Skyward were also involved with that as well. So thanks to our local companies, and I'm sure there are others. You see many companies.
Thank you very much. Yep.
Yeah, and many companies too across the state are shifting and starting to make a lot of the hand sanitizers too. So again, thanks for all you guys are doing in that regard. Ryan, who do we have on that? Oh, I'm up next. Okay. Oh, kind of threw me off there. So yeah, you know who I am. What we've been doing primarily is getting resources out as well, both the economic recovery site. Early on, we were trying to get as much information out as we could regarding loan and grant opportunities through SBA, the Small Business Association, SBA.gov, the WEDC, Wisconsin Economic Development Corporation, WEDC.org, and many of those other resources that are on the website that you see at the top of this slide, which is Portage, ECON recovery.org. Lots of great resources on that. So we've been trying to get that out as much as we can. Gary brought up the topic of essential and non-essential. And that's been a really complicated effort. And I know the cities and the village had to do a lot with that. And I would just suggest that people be patient and realize that if we're going to have an economic recovery, we first need to have a safety recovery. So do your best to follow suit with the governor's order, and have a conversation with people if you are challenged in that regard, and try to figure it out what's best for the community. We did send out a survey just today, and that same survey is available on the website. Just some general questions about, what are your challenges? What ideas are you doing that we could share with the business community? I think that sharing best practices now, or sharing any practices for that matter, at this point in time is the best way to help us get through this in terms of businesses and employees, because we know many people have been impacted, and of course we hear that across the state and across the country. So please, keep no secret. Share your personal and professional best practices with whoever, and make sure we get that out. We're hearing a lot of numbers, of course, about unemployment. I think early projections were 13%. Now I'm hearing upwards of that number in terms of unemployment. If you're interested in posting jobs, and I know that some businesses are worried about keeping open right now, much less hiring, but if you do have an interest in posting jobs, let the Business Council know. We have a link on our website that posts job openings, so that people who are looking for jobs can get to that sort of information. I think the topic of April 24th was brought up by Gary and others. I think that is that's a tough date. I'm glad to hear that it sounds like there's going to be some resolution by the end of this week, because a lot of businesses are out there, and if you have a restaurant, you can't flip the switch in a day. You've got to get food and staff and all that together. That's simply one example. So our chamber, a lot of the chambers across the state, through the WMC, the State Chamber Organization, have been pushing on the governor in a very friendly, happy way to make sure that whenever this ends, or how this ends, that there is a rollout, so that businesses and individuals can make plans for what they need to have or what they need to do down the road. Whether that's April 24th or later, that's a health decision. But once that time comes, I think we all want to know with some certainty how that rollout might look. So I guess those are, one other quick update, that we don't have the schools specifically on here, but the schools and a number of us have been getting together on a weekly, now every other week basis. And of course, they've been working hard with their e-learning and getting all their K through 12 and post-secondary students as well, with Midstate and EWSP online, and keeping students engaged there. So many good things going on in our community, and it's great to see, unfortunately through a crisis, but it's great to see Portage County, as usual, come together and try to solve a crisis in this situation. Who do we have next, Ryan? Chris Holman, Portage County Executive. Chris, what sort of updates do you have for us?
Well, hello, everybody. Good afternoon. And I think I'll just start off by saying I could echo all the sentiments that people expressed earlier about thanking everybody for bringing us together, and thank you to everybody on the call as well. I'd looked at the kind of heading for this section being impacts to the county. And so I think I could just start off by saying that, given the state and county declarations of a public health emergency, essentially that's put local governments into a position to work with FEMA for any and all reimbursable expenditures. And I won't cover everything, but the key is to document everything that we're doing now, so that local governments can have the information they need as it happens, and not try to go back and figure out what it was when it comes time to file the paperwork. And it is a lengthy process. It doesn't really help budgets right now, but it does offer some hope, and it will help recover some costs down the road. And that's helpful because, budgets are pretty tight as it is for the county, but also for municipalities in general before any of this. So that will all be very crucial as we move forward. The county did receive some funding support from CMS, which is the Centers of Medicare and Medicaid Services. That was via the Provider Stimulus and the CARES Act, which is one of the pieces of federal legislation that recently came down. That is essentially dedicated to help with the county's overall efforts to fight COVID-19. So anything associated with our taking that on, that stimulus package is to help fund those efforts. The county's Emergency Operations Center has been up and running for some time now. We use that framework to better coordinate our organizational response, but we also use it to make sure that we've integrated with our community partners so that we can help out anywhere we can with all the numerous efforts being made across the county, like this one that we're talking about today. And we do have liaisons into different community conversations, again, so that we're trying to stay on top of everything and keep up the communication and make sure that any gaps that there may be in the overall community response aren't being left behind. And acknowledging, of course, that there's so much happening and there's so many different aspects of this to keep track of. And so that's another real part about having all of these people coming together in this group and just in the community in general. That's what's really going to help us get through. In terms of services, the county's focus has been on responding appropriately to COVID-19, so that we have lots of people working from home. We're wanting to meet the intent of the state's safer at home order, but also many of the things we do are 24/7 services or mandated services or things that people really need at this time. And so there's been an emphasis as well on the safe continuation of as many county services as possible. And most services are still available, though the interactions are almost all online, by phone, or if needed, by appointment. And we do maintain a list of all alerts from public health, updates, closures, building access information, and more on our website, along with daily press releases and a page dedicated to our COVID-19 response. And it's easy to get to all of that. You just have to go to the county's homepage, and there's multiple links you can follow there. Additionally, I communicate with the governor's office regularly so that they have a sense of what we're working through here in Portage County, which is, again, why I'm on this call and several other calls that I'll talk about in a minute, just because I want to make sure that as they're making the decisions with something that nobody's really confronted in our lifetimes, that they are hearing the lived experience of things at our level and dovetailing that into their decision-making process. So most recently, I communicated with them about the safer at home order, and realizing that they've got a lot on their plate and some difficult choices ahead. I really just wanted to stress that the sooner they can let people know what direction they may be looking to take, the better it will be for everybody, whether that's local governments or businesses. Having even having a 4-week window in the original order, I think gave everybody a solid framework of certainty to operate within. So if they can continue to give us some sort of lead time on being able to adjust, that will be super helpful, because with federal legislation and some of the other orders that had come down, I'll be frank and just say that we learned about them from the media. And so that sort of thing was a hard thing to respond to on the fly, but acknowledging that, of course, everybody's doing the best job they can. I do the same thing with the Wisconsin Counties Association. Again, other administrators and executives are communicating the same sorts of things, but it's important for our advocates at the state level to also hear what's happening in the county. That doesn't mean it's explicitly counties. I make sure I speak regularly with the Towns Association chair, and I communicate with the mayor and Administrator Mahoney as well, just so that we're all trying to be on the same page and not leaving anything unsaid. I do participate in statewide calls twice a week with other county executives and administrators. The reason I mention that is because, given how unprecedented this is, it's good that it's sort of a broad statewide community effort, and that everybody kind of shares information and resources about how they've gone about approaching this. And there's some practical pieces to it as well, and that as counties, we're trying to go to the state with similar concerns and
I think we lost Chris. Chris, we lost your audio. Okay, well, hopefully, if Chris can get back on, just jump in. I think what we'll do in the meantime is move ahead to Sue. So, Sue, you didn't get to hear a summary to kind of prep yourself, but I know you're ready because you're that kind of person. But we wanted to have a kind of a community response, and we invited Sue Wilcox, who's executive director of the United Way, and been very connected with all the nonprofits, the community foundation. I mean, there are many other organizations in the community. So, Sue, can you give us some idea of the community response?
You bet. Good afternoon, everyone. Just a little bit of information about what the nonprofit community is working on, and I think it's important to recognize that the response from the nonprofit community is a result of many different organizations. We are 20 different organizations are meeting weekly that represent the health and human services, nonprofit, government, Stevens Point schools, and the faith-based community. Those weekly meetings, we're able to determine where there are need for volunteers, what financial resources are needed. As a result, there's new collaborations that are being created, and there's other areas of assistance that are being identified. It's been very helpful for us to share information about what each of us are seeing. And it's really important to say what everyone has said here today, which is a huge thank you to these organizations that are working so hard to support Portage County families and individuals. I did want to mention it's Woodlands Church that is actually responsible for the sewing of the masks, and there's probably many other entities that are working on those masks, and we certainly thank them. In addition, we have created a Portage County COVID-19 Relief Fund that is in partnership with the Community Foundation of Central Wisconsin and United Way. We continue to raise funds from the community to meet the needs around food insecurity, employment reductions, housing vulnerabilities, medical access, and childcare. Thus far, because of the generosity of this community, we've been able to distribute $160,000 to area nonprofits. And the main focus right now is direct assistance to individuals around food insecurities, housing needs, gas cards, utility support, and other basic need assistance. It's been remarkable to see how the nonprofits are working together and in collaboration, where one may be low on some funds, the other one is willing to jump in and help. And it's just remarkable. The last thing I wanted to touch on is to remind everyone about the 211 helpline. It is a free 24-hour, 7-day-a-week call center that has a comprehensive list of local community services and information. The calls are answered by trained operators. They are there to ask questions, to get information so that we can support our community residents. If they're unable to reach the service by using the number 211, there is an 800 number. It's 800-922-5590. If you have any difficulty in reaching an operator, please let us know at United Way. We will help you with that. The last point I want to make is that many of the services that we are working with are seeing and hearing from individuals that have never reached out for assistance before. And you know what it can mean for individuals to reach out. And so I'm encouraging you that if you know someone and they're struggling and it's difficult for them to call someone, I encourage you to have them call 211 or reach out to a faith-based organization, to the schools, to any nonprofit in the community. We are truly here to help, and we want to make it easy for folks to get the assistance that they need. So please feel free to give United Way a call at any time and use that number 211 when needed. Thank you.
Sue, thanks so much, and thanks for all you're doing. And I want to put another plug in for the relief fund that United Way and the Community Foundation have put together, have organized, and anybody in the community can certainly donate to that and also request funding. But we do need people because, as you can hear from Sue, the needs are increasing and they will continue to increase. So as much as you're able to do, please do that. I do want to mention too, in case folks join late in the call, we are recording this call and it will be available on the website. So if you're interested in hearing the whole call, you certainly can do that. Just a couple things before I turn it over to Ryan. Ryan's going to share a few comments and also pose some questions to our presenters. I guess two things that I would point out kind of from a philosophical standpoint. One is that every day is going to be new and different. Every hour to some degree is new and different. And we know it'll be new and different when we come out of this at some point. And just hearing today, even having been involved, but just hearing today, all the things that are going on in the midst of this crisis. And I think leaders rise through crisis. And I think our community and our county is certainly a great example of that. And we'll be able to hold ourselves up high, even though many family members are being impacted from a health standpoint. We're still doing a lot of great things, doing the best we can in our community. With that, Ryan, I'll turn it over to you for closing remarks and any questions that have come up.
Sure. Yeah, Todd. What I did was we got a number of questions from folks throughout the last week since we published the notice that this is going to occur. So I just kind of took the top 5 or so frequently asked questions and I put them in this PowerPoint. Our goal as the economic recovery team is that we're going to have these on a quasi-regular basis. And so if you do have questions, feel free to email me or put it on or if you go to the website, there is a link there that you can submit questions through a Google form there. So one of the ones that we had was, when are most non-essential businesses planning or preparing to reopen? As mentioned a couple of times through this phone call, the governor's orders are through April 24th, but that could be extended. I know the Wisconsin Economic Development Association and the Wisconsin Economic Development Corporation, WMC, and others are asking or pushing this legislature and the governor to make a decision earlier on that. Just so that we're prepared if we are actually going to reopen on the 24th, or if there's going to be an extension of it, so that I think everyone's able to get their ducks in a row, if you will, to make sure that we know what's coming down the pipeline, not wait until way late on the 23rd to decide whether or not we're going to reopen at 8 a.m. on the 24th. So we are working on the business's behalf at the state level, and a lot of the state organizations that we're a part of and that we're active with within our own professional organizations are really pushing for clear understanding from the state level. And so just know that that's something, as soon as we know it, it'll be widely publicized. Another question that we received was, is there any property tax relief? Unfortunately, in short, not at this time. So property taxes, payments of property taxes, things like penalties and interest are all set at the state level. But again, staff and local leaders are pushing this. And in fact, there's a Senate bill right now that was drafted and is part of the larger package, the COVID-19 statewide response package that's being discussed, whether or not property taxes can be pushed back. Let's say if you haven't made your property tax payment in whole, the next due date is end of April. Can that get pushed back a month, or is there time outside of that we can pay our property taxes? And
right.
Yeah.
Ryan, I just want to give you an update on that. I'm not even sure that you're aware of it yet. First of all, different communities have different due dates. I think the county only has 2 installments of property taxes. Specifically talking about the city, the next installment would be due at the end of April. However, we have a finance committee meeting tonight, and we are going to decide, hopefully, if we will be, if the council chooses to, it's not skipping the payment, it's deferring the April installment to the end of July, which is the state statute deadline for property taxes. So we have the flexibility to extend the deadline and take that April installment, move it to July 31st without penalty or interest. And we're going to be considering that tonight at the Finance Committee meeting, only for Stevens Point properties though.
Perfect. Thank you, Mayor, for that clarification. So there was questions on how is Portage County working with state or federal governments as far as funding. So Stevens Point, Plover, and the county's revolving loan fund, that's what RLF means, is managed through the Central Wisconsin Economic Development Corporation, or CWED. CWED has microloans immediately available up to $50,000. I would, if you are a business owner that is looking for some type of microloan, reach out to Kristen immediately. This is something that they CWED can get through pretty quickly here. And all of our the municipal and the countywide revolving loans funds that we've had for a number of decades now are all managed through CWED. So highly encourage everyone to reach out to Chris and find out if you're eligible and start getting some of the microloans moving. Like I said, those can be approved pretty quickly and deposited in new accounts sooner rather than later, as opposed to going or waiting for some federal stimulus money. Additionally, CAP Services is offering loans to their existing clients as well. Laura West is on the call, and she could probably touch on that if she wants. Laura, do you have anything to add regarding CAP Services and any of your loans that are coming in?
Thanks, Ryan. So we have several funding options for people that need those funds right away, whether it be gap financing or bridge loans before they would get something like the EIDL loans, but also for those businesses that are still operating and are in need of funds, we can provide micro loans and small business loans.
Excellent. Yeah, Laura's email is on this website and on this presentation. Also, her contact information at CAP Services is on the portageeconrecovery.org website. I'll make another pitch. That's a great website. It's really was designed to be a landing page. So if you have any questions and you don't know where to start, portageeconrecovery.org is a great place to start. And I think it's going to be a huge asset to our local businesses that are looking to navigate these uncertain times. Again, it depends. You know, there were some questions on, well, when are we going to hear from the federal and the state on relief funds? And it depends on the process and the organization. Some of the federal funds through SB 2020 and through some of the CDFIs are expected to be dispersed sooner rather than later. But some of the larger funds are it's the federal government, right? I mean, they don't have the flexibility that some of us at the county or local level do in dispersing funds. So when we get those, we're trying to help people through that application process. Again, CAP Services, the Small Business Development Center at UW-Stevens Point. I didn't put Melissa or Mark's contact information at this presentation, and that's a mistake on my part, but make sure that you do reach out to those folks as well. They can be found at the Small Business Development Center at UW-Stevens Point. Are we communicating local impact from businesses to the government, and are we surveying? Yeah, essentially, we are surveying, and as Todd mentioned earlier at portageeconrecovery.org, there is a survey on that website. We ask you to take it. It's going to help us guide this process. I know Todd sent it out to his folks, I believe today, and so we should be getting some more responses to that survey. It's 3 simple questions, but that's really going to help us tailor this response based on the local businesses and their needs and their demands as we go through these, again, uncertain times. Additionally, those of us who are in tune with what's going on at the state or federal level are really being an advocate for Portage County, for Stevens Point, for Plover, to make sure that our concerns here locally from our local businesses are being heard at those various levels. As I mentioned earlier, we are doing a lot with trying to get clarification. We're reaching out to our contacts last week was mainly, is this essential or is this a non-essential service kind of a thing? So if you do have questions, please reach out to myself, Steve Kunst at Village of Plover, Todd, anyone else, and we'll try to get your questions answered as quickly as possible. Mayor Mike, you were monitoring the chat. Is there any questions that came in there that maybe we can answer now?
Oops, sorry. I didn't see any, somebody's got an echo. I didn't see any questions per se. There was Zai Vang mentioned that the Small Business Development Center contact, and they listed that along with the Small Business Development Center Director and Business Consultant. But in monitoring, especially Margaret, I hope you're doing okay. You look stressed. I just want to make sure that we're meeting the needs of the people that are in this conference. I know we don't have all the answers, and I know that everybody is very much in limbo now, trying to figure out how they're going to try and stay afloat. Is there something specific that we might be able to either A, answer for you, or B, look into? We're kind of looking to the business community for some direction on this. Anyone? You have to take yourself off of mute just in case.
Hey, Mike, it's Kathy Johnson from Sunset Point Winery. Can you hear me?
Yes.
I think one of the big things, listening to the people downtown and the businesses, is loans are great, deferments are great, but we're not going to make it on that. We need grants. We need things taken away that we need to pay. Deferments and loans are wonderful, but when we get to go back to work and open our doors again, all these bills are going to come due at once. All these loans, all the deferments, come July, we're not going to have the money.
Okay.
And that's the consensus from everybody in the business world downtown, is we are not going to be able to open and pay the thousands of dollars that has going to become due June and July.
Okay. So we've got people on this call that can look into it. I don't think there's an easy answer on this, Kathy. But
I understand that, but you want to know what we need.
Yep, I do.
That's our needs.
And I was going to continue on by saying that I know other people here have the same ability to do so, but I'm going to pass this on to our state legislature. The two legislators we have, Katrina Shankland, who has been very, very hard working in this, and Senator Patrick Teston, who has also been an asset, trying to get this up to the governor's office and further if we need to. Todd, I just saw something come through with a meeting regarding Congressman Kind. So we'll make sure and bend his ear on this too to let him know what our business community is telling us.
And actually, just a quick side note, I just got word that meeting got postponed because he now has a legislative meeting to go in tomorrow from 3 to 4. So we were going to have Ron Kind on tomorrow afternoon, but we'll be rescheduling that because he had something come up. Because I know they're dealing with another, I don't know which bill it is, 2, 3, or 4, to try to meet the needs of businesses. And it's extremely exacerbating. I can't imagine what it would be like owning a small business other than I'm running a small business. But we certainly know the challenges out there, and we're doing all we can. And I think that's all we can do is communicate with the powers to be, so to speak, at the state and federal level. Keep letting them know if they don't hear from us, they don't know, and they can't pass that information on. So Katrina and Patrick obviously are two locally, but contact our legislatures.
Yeah, and I'll make sure that Congressman Kind's office is aware of your comments, Kathy. I'll just send him an email and give him a call or something and make sure that he is aware of that.
Well, appreciated, but we've also contacted him and Katrina and Patrick Teston and all the above. But I think that you wanted to hear from the businesses and the downtown businesses as small businesses. That's what we need. We don't need more loans and deferments.
I saw that a couple. Thanks, Kathy. I saw a couple of chats come through about different programs, the PPP program. There's an EIDL program, and all the details of those are all on the portageeconrecovery.org. It's a good idea for you to get on and talk to
we've applied, already done that weeks ago. And
I know, I'm talking generally, Kathy, about everybody.
Oh, okay.
But looking for those particular opportunities on there. And I'm sure many have already done this, but make sure you talk to your banker, make sure you talk to your accountant. Right now, there isn't a solution, unfortunately, for everybody across the board. And I have a lot of respect for all the businesses in Portage County, whether it's downtown or Plover or Amherst or wherever. And it's a really tough time, and we're all doing the best we can do to try to get businesses up and going once we get the health recovery.
And Todd or Ryan, whoever, Jared from Ruby Coffee had just asked any local resources on navigating the details of PPE, current or future. Does anybody know of any resources that might help navigate those gray waters?
Yeah, so the resources, well, the application itself and some information is on the website. Otherwise, Melissa and Mark at the Small Business Development Center have been great assets in helping to navigate that application, that process itself. So I would definitely reach out to those folks if you have any questions on the application. The application itself is fairly simple. It's 2 pages, which is way too short for a government application, but I know the feds are really hoping to get this information out, and encourage people to apply for it. So again, if you have any questions on applying for it or anything else, Melissa and Mark at the Small Business Development Center are great assets and resources.
And Gordon just mentioned too that WEDC can walk businesses through the PPP option or process too.
Perfect.
He wanted, Jared clarified, he wants questions, his question pertains specifically to that of payroll percentages and the finer points. Either the Small Business Development Center, Jared, or the WEDC should be able to answer those questions for you. If you do not get those answered satisfactorily, by all means, give our office a call and we'll try and get you some resources.
Yeah, perfect. All right, thanks, Mayor, and those who asked questions. Again, we're hoping to have this on a quasi-regular basis, and obviously this is a very fluid situation, and there's money that's being thrown out there, and we're trying to wrap our heads around, what are the resources out there for our local businesses, because we really want to get through this pandemic and make sure that we're economically resilient and sustainable, and that we're going to come out of it better than we were going into it. Like that's our ultimate hope and goal, and we recognize that that's a lofty goal, but whatever we can do to help our local businesses through this is going to be critical. Todd, I don't have anything else for closing remarks other than, just keep an eye out. We'll have another one of these. Please remember to stay safe and healthy, only go out for essential trips, and support your local businesses as much as possible through these trying times. So with that, Todd, I'll turn it back over to you.
Well said, Ryan. I can't add anything to that. Thanks everybody for being on the call, and keep looking out for more of these conversations down the road, and hit that website as often as you can. Thanks everybody. Have a great day.